Can you beat Lego Batman going backwards is a question that nobody asked, but I am going to answer. This challenge is super simple. I'm going to start in the very last room of the game, as close to the exit as possible, and we're going to see if we can backtrack all the way to the start of that level. When we tried this challenge on LEGO Indy, we didn't really have access to the plethora of abilities that LEGO Batman 1 has. From things like glide suits and wall jumps to even more unintended things like battering clips and battering double jumps. All of these will be explained in due time, but let's start off at the very end of the game in the top of the tower. The big thing you'll notice right away is that the trapdoor we enter from in the cutscene doesn't take us back to the previous room. It just drops us into a lower level. This is a pretty clear-cut example of a level we can't backtrack in, but we can verify our findings even more. Using a program called Brickbench, we can get an insightful look inside the game. We can view the terrain map, level models, and most importantly, doors. These green planes or doors do exactly what they sound like. They take you from one point in a level to the next, usually as a transition between areas we call rooms. This final section with the bells is called Evil Cathedral Room C in the game files. Very creative name, I know. And there's no door that takes us from Evil Cathedral Room B present here at all. There is a doorway out of bounds that goes from Room C to the level's outro, but nothing backwards. A simpler way to view the doors in the level can be done using the debug menu found in the demo version of Batman 1, where we have an option to view every door and their path that's present in the room. I use this demo a lot when doing challenges. It makes it super easy to reload rooms and try risky strategies. With all these tools in mind, let me know in the comments before the video starts how many levels will be possible in reverse. We already know this one isn't, but take your best shot. Anyways, if we force our way to the end of Room B, we find that we can in fact backtrack to the bottom of the cathedral. We just get stuck in that pesky Room C. The Lure of the Night is a much more interesting example. So we begin in the cutscene to the boss fight, and behind us is blocked off by a bunch of debris. If we spam the Y button, we're able to bug the game out and start driving one of the cop transport trucks as Killer Moth, and use this to brute force our way past that debris. Unfortunately, even if we do this, there's an invisible wall blocking any path backwards. There is an out-of-bounds door way off in the distance that would be impossible to hit in a vanilla playthrough. However, it only serves to reload the room, so once again, we're stuck here. To prove this, I turned on a coordinate viewer and flew my character all the way to the coordinates for the door and Brickbench, and you can see here that we just get teleported back. The rest of the level is possible to beat backwards, it just takes some extra effort. You have to glide over the park gate, damage boost over the flaming trash with the helicopter, and clip out of bounds in order to get around the cement blockade. These clips are done in a variety of ways, but the method I use is spamming Ctrl-Alt-Delete to create fake lag in the game. This displaces your character's hitbox and lets them walk through walls in very specific scenarios. Besides just being out of bounds, we have to stay in a very specific place to avoid falling into the void. But enough gliding around as the moth will get us there. That's another level done. Kinda. Once you jump across the toxic waste as Scarecrow and ride the elevator up, you're able to easily walk back to the first room of the level, but getting to the exact starting point is a bit weirder. I guess because the devs never intended for you to be back here before the doors open, you can just jump through the wall here? I think it's because there's a hole where the panel guy stands that only has collision on one side, but I'll take what I can get. It's our first fully completed level. Our first vehicle level goes about as expected. There's no way back from the end room, and even if you could, you get stuck at the first billboard and can't get much further. Which brings us to the very first level in the last episode, Little Top at the Big Fun. I was originally very skeptical about this level, since I knew the boss fight boxed you into this tiny area near the end, but unlike a lot of gates in this game, this one didn't have collision extending up at the top, and with a well-placed jump off of this crane, I was able to just barely clear the gap and get out. The only other issues that I ran into was in the first room. You can't make it through the funhouse backwards, you get stopped by an out-of-reach switch. However, I remembered using an out-of-bounds jump to grab a mini-kit in the no free play run, and I thought that there might be a chance I can walk all the way back to the start if the ground extended far enough. And it did, giving us another fully completed level. On to episode 5, where we aren't as lucky. Not only is there no door to backtrack here, but even if we could, there's not a chance we could climb back up the slide. It's a slide. Sure, room 1 and 2 are straightforward enough, but it's a quick and easy write-off as impossible. We can make it a bit further back in the sewers from the police station in the next level, but we're once again blocked by some debris we can't get through. Again, even if we could, there's no way past the red door that stops us from getting to the very beginning, giving us an unbeatable level. Things just keep getting worse as we find ourselves stuck in the boss fight of Harboring a Grudge. The interesting thing here is that there's a door that would bring us back to the previous room, but we just can't reach it. There aren't many ways to get out of bounds in vehicle levels at all, and here nothing was really applicable. Besides that, we get stuck anyways if we were to make it past, and get stuck again, so it really isn't worth dwelling on, leaving us with 2 levels that we hope will do something for us. Stealing the show was not very promising. Even though we are able to dodge around all the lasers with extended glides, how the hell was I supposed to get back up to the glass ceiling? There's not even a door up there in the first place. What is up with all these villain levels and just being unretraceable? Like, yeah, we can easily fly through the first section, it's a breeze, but man, this episode has not been kind to us at all. Until rockin' the docks. Thanks to Penguin's bombing ability, everything that would normally stand in our way is decimated. This is in no small part due to the interconnectivity of every room, turning the impossible into possible. This is a case of a level being easier backwards too. Think of how many places the devs had to put monkey bars in case a player fell into water. They're all on the side we need to go to, so this one comparatively to the others was a joke, and we could swiftly make our way into the last villain episode. I know episode 5 was a bit of a letdown, but just wait until Hero, where we're able to do so many things that the villain side of the run could only dream of. Despite this first level of episode 4 not fully panning out, it was an interesting one to break down. While we can easily leave the final room for the first time in forever, we get stopped by the lasers. The first ones you just shoot to turn off, but the second set isn't as easy. I tried clipping out of bounds to get past them, but there wasn't a good setup for it, and the laser hitbox would have extended out of bounds too if I had to guess. Drop-in warps didn't work, there was nowhere to jump off of them from, so I gave up. There's a third set of lasers over here too, but those ones you can just shoot. In the next room we hit a familiar roadblock. More lasers. These are intended to be broken by pushing a block of gold on that checkered path, which we obviously couldn't do. I had one last trick up my sleeve that I wanted to try before fully throwing in the towel, and it relied on room reloading. Those of you who watched the No Free Play video will know where this is going, but if you exit and re-enter a room enough in this game, certain objects start to deload, which is evident here by me walking through all these boxes. I thought with enough reloads the lasers might deload, but luck was not on my side, and it was the final straw for the level. So we move on. Wow, more lasers, very, very cool. I'm going to cheat just a little bit in this level. There's another niche piece of tech in this game called bar launching. It's super inconsistent, it sucks, and it's not very fun to do. I spent over 2 hours in this room in my last Batman video trying to get a bar launch to grab mini-kits, and I am not doing that again. So let's synthesize one by lifting our player up to the proper height and navigating them over the players, which works perfectly. I know it's a little cheap, but nothing with bar launches requires skill. It's all up to near frame perfect character switches when the partner player tries to grab monkey bars. It does not take anything away from this challenge. Anyways, just touching the power box disables the next set of lasers, and the toxic waste room is about as far as we can make it. There's no loading transition to room 1, so this level cannot be completed, but you can make it pretty far. Well, further than mean green fingers at least. Hard to lose to a level where you get stuck in the final room, the area before it, and then another area before it, only to mind control a guy through a wall and then get stuck 4 seconds later. Truly a special level. Disappointment stays in the conversation with the evil ice cream factory. This jump right here is painful, because you get so close to making it across. Believe me, I tried everything, using the door for extra height, jump kicking, etc., but you just can't make it over. It's a shame too, because after doing this tight jump and crossing the Cream River, the only thing that ends up standing in your way is this glass wall, so either way, it's just impossible. In fact, this is a running trend with this movie, because even if we give the Riddler makes it withdrawal everything we've got, nothing works for us. I mean, look at this. To get past room 2, we have to wall jump out of bounds and platform on top of these support beams, jump through the wall, and then get stuck behind a truck in the bottom of the elevator. I mean, come on, what is the point anymore? Episode 4 gave us 0 completable levels, but we're now moving on to the hero side of the run, where every level we not only get a wall jumper, but also gain access to the Batarang, the most broken item in the game. It lets us go out of bounds, get extra jumps in midair, and so much more. Let's see if it's the difference that we need. Here's the interesting thing about map files in this game. You spend a lot of time retreading old ground in the villain side of the run. For example, the room in the end of Hero and Villain in episode 3 is the same map, so if there wasn't a door present in Villain, there won't be one in Hero either. If we skip this room and just start from the second to last room, we can backtrack. It just takes a well-timed BDJ over the railing. In levels like Lure of the Night, which heavily differ from the Villain counterpart, we get back on track. And by that I mean we find ourselves in a room we can't leave. Awesome! There's no way backwards, and even if there was, there's no door present in the map file that would take us to our last room. We can get past the flaming trash room outside with a BRC to get out of bounds, but we get caught in the disco area regardless due to the terrain completely boxing us in, and the elevator not being active yet. But hold on, let's rewind. I glossed over this moment right here where pulling out our batarang pushed me out of bounds. This is called a BRC or batarang clip, and all you have to do is just hold down the attack button. This sometimes downwarps you inside of objects, allowing you to lag clip to walk through walls. But yeah, this was a bust. Without the bomb suit, there wasn't a whole lot I could do inside of disco. The only trigger that was potentially in reach was one for starting the disco, but in reach is still a bit of a stretch. Much like our last few vehicle levels, Flight of the Bat is impossible. The last room is just a box. Even if it was though, your game would crash before you're able to get back to the starting position. Whenever there's more than, say, 15 enemies on screen, your game has trouble processing it and just gives up. At least that's what happened to me over and over. We desperately needed to win that big top at the little fun provided. And we also get to talk about BDJs. BDJ stands for Batarang Double Jump, and it's done by throwing a batarang, holding down the targeting button, and jumping the second it gets back to you. This grounds you in midair and lets you jump again. We get to combine this with the wall jump in order to clear the gate that locks you in the Harley fight. And that's really the only difficult thing here. You can kind of just walk all the way to the start with no issue. Now, as most of you can expect, we don't get the same luck when it comes to Mad Hatter. Even though this area is in the same room as everything else, there's no way to get back there. It's weirdly separated by a void. I tried punch launching over the walls of the room, but I wasn't able to get much out of it. Skipping on through, we reach another impasse at this bridge, but one more punch launch to get on top of the fence and leap over solves that issue with ease. Next up, all we have to do is BRC on the green lump and pull out our batarang once more to upwarp to the opposite side of the fence, clear the gap, and get stuck. I couldn't find any way to get out of this little sub area, and because of the sheer amount of gooners in the room, my game kept crashing over and over, making me less inclined to find a solution. I don't think you'd be able to get anywhere with this regardless, but who knows, maybe I'm wrong. As we discussed previously, some of these boss rooms use the same map file, and therefore aren't going to be possible in hero mode if they weren't also in villain, Arctic World being no exception. Moving on from that, Zoo Company is in a similar boat. Haha, boat. You can't leave the boss room from the way you entered, and there's no door anywhere else either. However, backtracking here is incredibly easy besides that, and doesn't take much. We have an interesting scenario when we begin, or I guess end, under the city. So this boss room for Killer Croc is similar to the cell we rescue Catwoman from, and there's even some excess terrain out of bounds that matches up with the police station. Funnily enough, there is a door that would take us back to the sewers, but it's blocked off from the top. And even getting out of bounds doesn't help us. The whole room is encased in the terrain from the villain side of the run. Even outside of this, the level isn't completable. This door right before the start is impassable, even when you try to do the speedrun super jump in reverse. The Batboat battle, despite being one of the levels of all time, is surprisingly forgiving. It's one of the only times we've been able to leave a boss fight with no extra tricks or glitches. We can just go straight back. Unfortunately, our journey was stopped short at this gate, but it was the thought that counted. Of course, and there she goes again, we aren't able to leave the boss room. But if we were able to, it would be a breeze getting backwards, with the only trick needed being a BDJ for the gap between buildings. Despite having all of these new ways to break the game, Episode 2 was not very kind to us. There wasn't a single possible backwards level. We're down to our last set of 5, and to be honest, I don't think it's looking too good for us. But there is only one way to find out. Well, we tried. With another unexitable boss fight, the face-off lets us down big time. But that's not to say it isn't an interesting level outside of this. With the BDJ, we're able to get on top of the bridge and inch our way over the fence to do another BDJ to just barely get past the toxic waste. We can then hop in a truck and use the height gain from jumping to make it out over this gate, and then one more really tight jump on the bridge barrier to make it all the way to our start. Still a cool looking level despite the tragedy in the boss fight. Wouldn't you know it, a Poisonous Appointment has the same issue. It's a level that for all intents and purposes should be doable backwards, but the pesky boss fight locks you out. It's so strange that outside of the forced BDJ to pass the plants, the level is easier when you go backwards, but everything is ruined from the boss fight. Even Two-Face Chase, our only car level, suffers from that same disease. You can't go back. But you want to know the worst part? The devs are taunting us with this room. There's this whole section that you don't normally have access to during a playthrough, but it's entirely drivable and even features a ramp. This area does have a door for backtracking, but you can't get to it, not with a drop-in warp or anything. It seems like we're never going to catch a break. because as we spawn into the ice cream factory, the door closes behind us. I was feeling hopeless until I realized something. Even though our exit is blocked off, there's still a loading door that can bring us back. Our only problem is the loading door is inside the physical door. This meant one of two things. We either needed to beat the door to the close or somehow get out of bounds on top of the door and hit the corner of the load. The door closes way too fast to beat it there, so option 2 it is. I noticed there was a punch launch on the back wall we could use to get height, but I wasn't getting high enough as Robin consistently. Batman, however, was able to make it up in a much more controlled manner. After falling too far out of bounds once or twice, I managed to land on the door and just barely hit the corner of the load, sending us back. Too bad these 2 ice beams get us stuck immediately after. We don't get access to the glide suit until earlier on in the level, and BDJs aren't enough to get us around these enormous hitboxes. Try as I might, this was just too much to circumvent. We had a good run, so let's end it off with a bang. I knew from previous experience that you can walk out of the Clayface fight with no issue and you can bank on Batman, but the issues were in what comes after. For whatever reason, you can backtrack into this tiny hallway, but the blue tech suit door closes right behind you. I don't know why, I don't care why, it's dumb. I tried using a car to clip Robin through the door, but to no avail. And with nothing to lag clip off of in the room, it was over. It was a solid try, but nothing here panned out. Where does this leave us? Well, 4 out of the 30 levels in the game are beatable backwards. 2 of them are counterparts towards each other, and the other 2 are a bit random. Thanks to Brickbench, we know that there's only a few other levels that could theoretically be possible. Ones like Under the City that have loads, just no way to hit them. Maybe somebody smarter than me could do it, but I'm satisfied with our findings. Let me know down below what you want to see next on the channel, and don't forget to subscribe as well, as we are getting dangerously close to 100k. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.